This is the 217 Recovery Podcast with Corey Winfield.
Well, fat people, we really hate it. I'm speaking for all fat people. We hate being hot. You show me one fat person that likes being hot, and I'm gonna have some words with them. Like, why you playing? You don't like being hot, bro.
And co-host Marnie Winfield.
The little things that I appreciate now in life, and this gas station is the gas station of all gas stations.
And what makes it so special?
It's got like a coffee bar in there, kind of.
It is the 29th of November, 2022. My name is Corey Winfield, and this is the 217 Recovery Podcast. Marnie is not here today. She's working. But I do have a very special guest with me. I'm here with Nancy Dow. Nancy, how are you today?
I am great, Corey, because I'm sitting here with you. Thank you.
And we're just going to disclose that this is the second time we've done this podcast. I mean, the first time we started, we were at your office at Addiction Treatment Services, and I had a very hard time setting everything up, and the way I was trying, it was very uncomfortable, and you start telling your story, and it's going great, and then my computer screen just freezes up. So, and by that time, we had no time to start it over. I couldn't fix it, so we had to scrap it, and I felt so bad because I pretty much wasted your time, but...
It's all good. You are never a waste of time, Corey. Never.
All right. Well, we're back again.
Yes, we are.
And the computer's not frozen so far, so we're going good. The lights are on. Everything is good, except you're just getting over being sick with COVID.
Yes.
And still messing with your voice. You said.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like my voice, but it's really me. It's really Nancy. So.
And I appreciate you going on with me today to do this. And I'm under some kind of weather bug too, so I mean whatever, but. That's not what it's about. It's about us, and it's about recovery, and it's about sharing our stories. And your story is so powerful. It makes a lot of people cry. I mean,
sometimes it makes me still cry, Corey. Yeah, often it does. But my daughter, Dana, struggled with addiction for about 12 years on and off to prescription opiates. She was prescribed them for kidney stones when she was 20 years old, and it wasn't long after she became addicted to the prescription opiates. And in her years of her challenges with struggling with addiction, she had her longest bout of 3 years in recovery and was very strong in recovery. But Dana lost her battle on April 8th, 2017. And it was a day that changed my life forever, Corey. When I think back now on all that Dana went through, in the past 5.5 years, I've learned so much more by working in the recovery community and being involved with those in recovery to help me understand more about the disease that ended up taking her life. And I'm grateful every day to be a part of the recovery community, to work at ATS and to work with families. It helps me work through my grief because I can't think a better way to honor my daughter than to help others that struggle with the disease or families that are also affected by the disease.
And every family pretty much is.
Yes.
One way or another. And it's something that the mom, the dad, the brothers, sisters, they didn't ask for it, but they find themselves affected by it. Family members like brothers and sisters, some of them can be resentful, like, oh, why are you paying so much attention to Corey? He's just a drunk, or, oh, she's so-and-so, she's just an addict and she's a junkie. Why are you spending so much time with her? Look at me and my kids, we're doing great, and you don't pay attention to us, and there's a lot of resentments that happen there. And I know from personal experience that sometimes they just don't want anything to do with it. They want to act like it's not there. It's not their problem. Nothing to see here, and we hope Corey makes it, but nothing we can do about it. And there's really nothing they really could do. When I talk about that, I was talking about my older brother and my younger brother. Like, there's nothing they could have told me. There's nothing that they couldn't have shamed me into it. Shaming people into recovery doesn't work. And they didn't really know what to do either, so it's kind of left them on the sidelines. But they still felt hurt. I know my younger brother, he still looks up to me because I'm awesome and stuff. But he was hurting, and he just thought, well, Corey is going to die soon, and I'm just going to prepare myself mentally for that day because it's coming. and I really don't want my daughters around him, you know. And my sister kind of felt the same with my nephews, you know, like how attached do I want them to get to Corey, because Corey's going to die soon. He's going to drink himself to death. And that's tough, you know, to put them in those spots that they didn't ask for. And then, you know, the things with my mom and my stepdad, you know, like my mom didn't ask for that. My stepdad was just kind of like, at first he was mad, he was angry. And then I think as he kind of learned a little bit about it, he realized like, okay, Corey's not drinking for fun. Because at first he was like, he's not a party all the time, you know. And at the time I didn't know I was drinking to hide pain either. I just knew at that time that I needed to drink. But as he went through it, then he kind of got a little sympathetic with, man, that would suck to go through that, you know, like that's horrible, and I don't know what to do. But then at the end, he's just kind of like, all right, man, like I've had enough. Let me off the bus. And my mom, she just kind of stuck through it. I mean, there was really no other choice, and she tells me to this day over and over, you know, if you wouldn't have said that you wanted to live, I would have let you die. And I don't know if she would have. I don't know.
Well, I have to tell you, you know what? You hit on so many things, Corey, when you talk about and share just about your own journey. One thing I know for sure is knowledge is powerful. The more we know, the more we understand, the better that a person can help support someone. So, like, when we don't know about it, there's all the misunderstanding and the judgment and the shame. And like when... Who was it that you thought you're just doing this for fun? Yeah, right. Well, and that's the furthest thing from the truth. You're just trying to hide the pain. And I am a family support coordinator at Addiction Treatment Services. I have the honor of working with families that have loved ones affected by substance use disorder. I wish that we would have had something like this when my daughter was struggling. I wish we would have had support for families. It helps me work through my grief by being able to sit and talk with families and help educate them and help them understand how to, one, take care of themselves, and two, if they learn how to communicate better, if they have healthy boundaries, if they, you know, take care of themselves and they have self-care and values, all those things are going to help them, but it's a ripple effect. It'll also help the person that they love, that hopefully, if they're not in recovery, maybe they will. And we know it. Recovery happens. Corey, you're living proof of how beautiful it is. And I know that for me, a lot of people say, how could you do this work after you lost your daughter? But guess what? She lives and breathes in me every day. I am her voice, and there is no better way to honor her than to help others and show that recovery happens. It's what she wanted more than anything on this earth, was recovery. And so guess what? I get to share that with other people and bring her with me.
And you're not, like my mom says, she's one of the lucky ones. You know, she didn't lose me, and she came very, very close to it. But she didn't, you know, and she feels very lucky about that, and she just kind of feels sad for, you know, other people that do lose, and there are lots of them, you know. And you could have easily just went and hid in a corner, which I'm sure you wanted to. I'm sure it wasn't easy to pick yourself back up, but when you started doing it, realizing, hey, that makes me feel better. You know, my story is tragic, and, you know, your loss is never going to be forgotten, but you can move on with it and make it into something that could help somebody else. And I think that is huge. And parents reach out to me, you know, I take people to and from treatment sometimes, and they're just like, hey, what do I do? What do I do? I give them your number.
Corey, I love you. So guess what, though? You know, it is so awesome when a person in recovery shares their story. And I know it's not easy, because sometimes it's a pretty dark journey. But every time you share your story, you help people like myself understand more. And the same with me. My story is sad. I miss my daughter every day, Corey. But if I share my story and I talk with others, maybe I'll help another family not live isolated. Just like people that are struggling with addiction, they isolate and it keeps the addiction going. Well, it's the same with families. When they isolate and they feel shamed, it's not going to help them. And so we have to advocate about it. We have to talk about it. And one of my favorite things to do is every other week I get the honor of going over to Dukoski and talking with the guys there and sharing about the family support program. I was there yesterday, and it was so completely, incredibly awesome. I can't even tell you. Like, there was such great engagement, and there were so many of them that shared about wanting to give my information to their mom or their wife or whoever. And that's what we're supposed to do. So sometimes, and you know this, Corey, for people that are in early recovery, your family, your support system could be just as sick and unhealthy as you. And if they're toxic, they could be the trigger that makes you relapse. And that's not what we want. So doing this and working with families is like the missing piece to the puzzle. Mm-hmm. You know, those guys there at Dukoski, they're doing their hard work. They're trying to take care of themselves. And yet, if the way they're spoke to by their family is unhealthy, how is that going to help? You know, it's not good. So we need to teach families and support systems that you deserve to be treated with respect and compassion, because you have to separate the person from the disease. And you can be angry, and I tell them that. You can be angry, you can be sad, you can be all those things, because this isn't what you wanted for your son or your daughter or your husband or your wife. But you have to separate that and be angry at the addiction and be respectful and compassionate with the person. If they had cancer, you would be there, right there, holding their hand when they go for chemo. But what do we do for people when they're just reaching out for early recovery? We need to change this.
Instead of shaming them, it's like, I was going to use a really bad analogy, but I liked what you just brought up with the cancer thing. I'm going to use mine anyway.
Go for it.
So, like, if I know somebody who's a Tigers fan, you know, and the Tigers suck.
I'm a Cub fan.
But I like their organization, though, because they gave us autographed memorabilia. So thank you, Tigers. And so did the Cubs, but I like the Cubs. And maybe the Cubs are having a good year, but I know the Tigers are having a bad year. I'm going to call my buddy Ron up and be like, hey, how about them Tigers, man? If I see him in the store, I'm like, oh, yeah, you're not wearing your Tiger shirt today, I see. You know, I'm going to give him a hard time. When my mom would go to the store, she'd see somebody she knew, and they'd come up to her kind of the same way, though. Hey, how's Corey doing? Well, he's in rehab again. Oh, that's horrible, you know. But it was more of a, like, dig, you know, like, oh, your little son that was a radio guy now. Oh, he's drunk, and he's in and out of rehabs. Oh, ha, 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 ha. You know, it was kind of more of a dig than anything. And now I would love to, I bet she just walks around waiting for people to ask, hey, how's Corey? Oh, he's great. He's got this company he started. He's helping people in recovery. He's going to have 4 years clean.
Yay!
Oh, I bet it makes, oh, that's great. Meanwhile, what they might want to say is, can my son call him? Because my son's battling with it, you know, and a lot of times they don't see it coming either. And especially when you have older kids, you know, they don't live with you anymore, and you're not there to watch them every single day. You know, you only know what they tell you. And they only tell you what they want you to know. Right. You know, Marnie will tell you that. She's my wife, obviously, and she would say, like, when her mom would call and she was doing bad, she just wouldn't answer. And then she'd finally get a text from her, like, just let me know you're alive, you know. And
I did that too. Yep, I did that too, Corey. That's all we want to know, is that you're there, even if you don't want to talk to us, you know. But no. So learning to live through hard times, you've done that, Corey. I mean, you've lived through some really hard times, and look at where you're at. And I look at what happened in my family, and I look at where I'm at now and the opportunity to be able to help other people. And it really means the world to me. I can't begin to express how much it means to be here and work amongst the people that I do. They're my friends, they're my coworkers, and hopefully we're making a difference in other people's lives, because that's what we need to do.
I think we are, and we're helping our own lives.
Yeah.
You know, and I've said it many times in the podcast, like, I do the podcast for me. That's
right.
It. You know, and people listen and they get something that, okay, that's great too, but it's for me. It gives me something to do. It lets me talk about recovery, and it lets me open up about my life. And like you said earlier, the more you share about it, more people can go, oh yeah, well, maybe it's possible for me too. You know, you can give people hope.
Yep. Knowledge is powerful, Corey. It really is. I see a difference when you start working with people and they don't have a good knowledge about addiction, and you start teaching them. Well, then they talk to other people. And so then maybe somebody else is learning more. And again, one of the biggest things that we have to learn to do is to break the shame and the stigma that's attached to addiction. It's wrong. And it's never going to help people that are struggling with the disease. So I just worked with someone this morning that really was questionable on whether or not addiction is a disease. And before we got done with our session, she had a greater understanding of how it really is. So
I used to have people tell me that, and I'm like, it's not a disease. I'm just a loser, a bad person. I really thought that. And then I went to a treatment center in Grand Rapids called Pine Rest, and they had us watch these videos, and it was showing how alcohol and other drugs, it changes your brain chemistry. And when it changes your brain chemistry, that's when it technically, even in the medical world, that's when it becomes a disease. So that's when I was like, okay, it is a disease. But I didn't want to hide behind it because I thought people were just saying, it's a disease, it's okay, you know. And I just wanted to figure out why, A, I couldn't drink like everybody else, and how can I figure out how to drink, you know. And I wasn't coming to the terms with just lean into this recovery thing. Yeah, it's uncomfortable at first, but lean into it and actually live life, you know. Like, there was a lot of things that weren't told to me. That's why I went so many times to treatment, you know. but that's fine, you know. It takes what it takes. My friend Justin, he went once.
Right. Everybody's path is different. And that's the other thing too, that sometimes families will have expectations. It tends to be more so dads, I don't want to stereotype, but it does, that have expectations for their sons or their daughters of where they should be in this amount of time. And I try to explain what takes one person 2 months might take another person 10. There is no time frame, and don't have expectations, because you're only going to set yourself up for heartache, because that's not good to do. So, but one thing I do want to talk about is, so I have this family-to-family support group that I do a couple times a month. And so it happens here on a Monday, December 5th at 5:30. And I have a special guest for my support group this month, and I'm pretty excited about it. He's an incredible human being. He speaks right from his great big heart, and he'll tell you like it is, which is a good thing. And, I happen to be sitting right across from him. His name is Corey Winfield.
What?
And so I'm so excited to incorporate having a person in recovery into my family support group, because a lot of times I have families that'll ask me questions, and I'm like them. I'm lived experience. I'm not a person that's actually struggled with addiction. And some of those questions need to be to a person that has been that path. And so Corey agreed to come be my special guest and on Monday night. And I'm pretty excited because I have a lot of families that I think are going to have a lot of questions for you, Corey. How do you feel about that?
Oh, no pressure whatsoever, Nancy. No, I think it's good. And it was actually, it might have been early summer. I was kind of down by your office, and a conversation was happening, and I brought up how I used to, in my mind, justify that I wasn't lying to my mother by telling her that I wasn't using her money to buy alcohol, and how, like, I would move money around from my checking account to my savings, and I'd show her, like, the 7 cents that I had in my checking, and, like, see, I don't have any money for gas. And then she'd be like, okay, and then she'd give me money for gas. And I would use that for gas, but then I'd take the other money that I had in savings, put that back in checking, and use that for alcohol. So, yeah, I was absolutely lying to her, and I didn't technically use the 20 she gave me, but once they're in your account, they're all numbers anyway. You know,
right,
so you can't really
right.
divide, like, that was her 20, and this is my 20. You know, so, you know, but that's the things that people will do, you know, and I kind of brought that up, and you're like, oh, you should come to my thing. And, you know, once we got the numbers right, you know, and the contract signed, I said, okay, you know, we'll do it. You know, I'll be free on the 5th of December.
No, you know what, Corey? You spoke at our library event back in September during Recovery Month. We had open mic recovery, and Corey got up there and he spoke and he shared, and he brought so many of us to tears. Corey, you did.
I?
Yes, you did. And this is why we need to listen to people in recovery share their stories, and why we need to work together. Because, again, a lot of times the families and the support systems don't realize that what they are doing, or how they do treat their son, their daughter, whoever, is unhealthy. And it's hard for me to explain some of that to families. They hear it differently from you. There were even a few things that were said yesterday at Dukoski, and I was like, yes, that's what I mean. But when you say it, it's different than when I say it. And so we need each other. We really do.
When I was in my active addiction either, I didn't realize that it affected my family. I had no idea.
No, because you could only think about yourself.
Yeah. You know, how am I going to get drunk, and how am I going to, I'm uncomfortable right now. You know, like how I need to go do a bottle. I need to get something now. And yeah, in those times I didn't think about my mom getting approached at the store. And it wasn't until, you know, I probably had 6, 7, 8 months in that she had told me, how do you think I felt going to the store? Because I told her, I was like, I had to be out of Southwest Michigan, because if I would go to the store, there would be somebody I would see, and it was just like, and I didn't want to talk about radio anymore. I didn't want to talk about anything. And so that's why going to sober living up in northern Michigan was what I chose, you know, and it was great for me. I wasn't running from it. I wasn't running from, you know, addiction. I was starting over, and that was the place for me. I didn't know anybody. I could go to the store. Nobody knows me as Corey, the radio guy, Corey, the alcoholic, whatever, Corey, the fun guy with the big dimples. No, nobody knew me like that, you know. So it was nice and refreshing for me to just lay some groundwork to start building a life, you know, a life that I had pretty much burnt to the ground. So it was good for me. But when my mom told me that, that's when it like really hit me, like, oh wow. And then I reached out to my sister, and she said, yeah, the same thing. You know, like people would approach her. She would see my friends. They would come up to her and, how's Corey? You know, and it's just a conversation she didn't want to have. So she'd see them and dart the other way, because a lot of times she didn't know how I was doing, and she knew it wasn't good, you know, back then. So it was like, oh great, that's one of Corey's friends. I got to dodge that. And I never thought about that. I never thought that affected my family that way. And if they had a place to go, the thing that you're having on the 5th, you know, the family, what's that called?
Family to family support group.
I just wanted you to say it.
Yeah.
You know, if they would have had something like that to go to, would they have? I don't know. You know, I would like to think that they would have. My mom definitely probably would have. My sister, brother, my brother actually might have. But that's when you start digging into, like, now they're feeling shamed again, because it's just like going to an AA meeting. You know, the first time you go in, I would assume the first time I went was in LA, and it was crazy. There was people on the street fighting and peeing and pooping, and I'm like, okay, I'm going in there. I'm normal. But so it was quite different. But like if somebody's going to a meeting, and I've been to some where it's like, okay, well, look around. Okay, who's seeing me going here? You know, and I wonder if some of those people feel the same. Like, oh, well, if I drive to ATS, you know, in Traverse City, and somebody going to see my car, are they going to see us get out, go in? You know, what are they going to think of me? You know, and I bet you deal with that a lot.
Exactly. Like you just hit the nail on the head. Yes, it's hard. It's hard for some people. It's hard for them to come to meet me one-on-one here, because just exactly for that reason, like who might see me, but I help work them through that, because again, you have the opportunity of saying, yep, my son's working on himself right now. He's in treatment. He's working on himself. But that's hard. So like, I like the fact that you shared about your family and how if they were out somewhere, they might dodge because they're like, oh my God, that person's going to ask me about Corey. So having an understanding of what both go through. So that's why your family needs their own recovery, because addiction touches the whole family and it affects everybody differently. But being able to talk about it without hurting each other's feelings, like if they share with you what they went through, don't take it personally. They're not blaming you. That's how it needs to be. I don't know. Maybe they did. I hope not. But we need to openly talk about what your hurts were without putting the blame on the person. This is what your disease did, what this affected, but not you as the person. But being able to openly talk about the hurts, that's how you're going to heal. But it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't.
And it's kind of like D-Day.
Yeah.
You know, if nobody got off the boat, everybody would have been shot up.
Yep.
And yes, the first person that got off the boat, he might have been shot. But he had to make that move, you know. Yeah. And I say that because you never know that friend or whoever you think might be judging you, and they see you and they're like, hey, did I see you at ATS? Did I see your car over there? Or if they ask you to do something, you're like, no, I'm going to this family meeting on, a what? Yeah, it's helping me. You know, I need the help, you know, like. Yeah. Greg or Doug or whatever, Sarah, she can help herself, but I got to learn how to help myself too. You know, like I can't do it for them, but I have to do this for me, you know, so I don't lose my mind, and so that I can be better at when he does need help or she needs help, to where I'm not enabling, and I know the difference between helping and enabling, and at least I can lay some boundaries down for myself and not cross them. And I can explain that to them, the son, daughter, whatever, in a healthy way, to where I'm not being mean, to where I'm not like, well, the party's got to stop sometime. It's like, look, I get it. It's tough. This is not the Christmas Carol. You're not going to wake up tomorrow.
Yep.
And it's not going to be, you're not going to be Scrooge no more. It's going to take some time, and it's going to take effort. And that's what it does take, and a lot of people, and they say for smart people, it's really hard. That's why I went 15 times. I probably should have went 25 times. But they say it's harder because we still think that, okay, and maybe there was a little bit of, oh, I'm better than that person. I can figure it out. I'll just drink on Fridays. And I used to think this up until I had about 6-7 months clean. It was like, oh, well, maybe way before then this time. But in the past, I would think, well, if I can get clean like 4 or 5 years, I'll be able to drink again. I'll get right back into radio. Be pretty easy. Land a job out in California, someplace I want to go, and then I'll drink again, and it'll be fine. I'll just drink on the weekends, and nobody will know. But that is an absolute lie. That is a lie that I'm selling myself. That I'm not buying it anymore.
So I want you to share that on Monday
I will.
night. So this is what we talk about when they have someone, a son or a daughter, that says, well, I can do that. I'm just going to, get well now, but then, I can drink again. And they don't understand that. So yeah, I like the way you just did that.
Because there's no way.
Yeah.
And once you get a taste of the good life, or just life, because some people, I was talking to a friend last night, and he's like, man, some people go to prison for 15, 20 years. I just used. But it's the same thing. He lost that much life and that much time as well. But you have to go. Okay. All right. Well, Nancy, thanks for coming on the podcast today. I know you have a client you got to meet with, but we'll talk again.
No, I love it. I love the work that you do. I'm so proud of you and everything that you do. You've helped my families already. And I have families that listen to your podcast because I give out your cards. And I think maybe I can talk you into maybe inviting a family person on to do a podcast with. And maybe they'll help other people reach out. So that would be good. But yeah, I love all that you're about, Corey. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Nancy. And I will post a link to the Zoom on our Facebook and Twitter and all that social stuff. So
Sounds good.
Great.
Sounds good. Thanks, Corey.
And no pressure.
Thanks for listening to the 217 Recovery Podcast. For more episodes plus bonus features, download the 217 Recovery app.